Hello, White Sox fans, and welcome to another edition of the FutureSox podcast. We have been going through and doing an AL Central preview for all the teams in the AL Central, and we have reached the last one here. And we have brought Jared Perkins to help us talk through the Kansas City Royals system and expectations for 2025. Let me go ahead and bring him in. How you doing, Jared?
Hey, how's it going? I appreciate you guys having me on. Excited to join you.
Thanks for coming on. So how did you feel about the Royals offseason here? Did you think that they did enough?
Yeah, I had talked about this with someone else the other day, and I gave it about a B. I think they did kind of what you wanted them to do in some sense this offseason. They brought back Michael Waka, brought back Michael Lorenz, and kind of solidified the rotation and the depth that they had there. They went out and got Carlos Estevez, which was like the kind of the big key free agent signing for them, which really gives them really nice back into the bullpen with Estevez, Urseg, and Hunter Harvey. Now that Harvey's looked healthy this spring and hopefully won't have the same results that he did at the end of last year. Went and addressed the biggest need, which was a leadoff hitter, and Jonathan India brought him in for Brady Singer, traded from depth that they had kind of in that rotation. I think where a lot of Royals fans are probably upset is that they didn't get that kind of corner outfield bat or that middle of the order type bat. I know they were in on guys like Taylor Ward and a few others to kind of really solidify that lineup. But I think that would be the one thing that would have pushed them over to an A is really going out and getting that bat. Like they went and got Mark Canna right at the last minute here. Not the guy you're kind of looking for the middle of the order, but he provides you kind of a platoon option there with MJ.
Yeah, Canna still kind of hits lefties, right? He did for a long time, but he's kind of at the end of the road. I thought that was like a little bit of a interesting one. So,
Yeah.
so we've been doing these, Jared, and obviously like the White Sox are going to be at the bottom, but I truly like the other four teams. Like you could tell me any of them took first or any of them took fourth, and I'd believe you. So, just as far as expectations for the Royals, is it win the division or is it just get into the playoffs at this point?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot similar to last year. Just get into the playoffs, right? I think the Guardians and Twins are very strong. Tigers have also shown that they can make some noise as well. So I think it's just going to be a very competitive division. I mean, they need that rotation and basically repeat what it did last year in order for them to really have a shot. Like again, they got India, they got Canada, they got some pieces here and there that kind of round out the lineup. But we saw it last year when Vinny Pasquantino went down. Like that the team doesn't have the depth really to kind of overcome big injuries, and so they're gonna have to stay completely healthy all year long and really have that rotation rolling like it did last year.
Is Pasquantino, he just went out with a hamstring,
Yeah,
didn't he? Is it
yeah.
serious? Did you hear anything on that?
They haven't said anything. No reports have come out. I mean, they did waive Nick Prado, so that kind of gives you some confidence that maybe he's going to be fine, and maybe it's just a little tweak. But also, Canna can play first base, so who knows? It could be nothing that Prado got waived. But yeah, definitely concerning. Like he's a guy that you want healthy all year long, and hopefully he'll be back on the field.
Yeah, I haven't paid a ton of attention, but were you guys surprised that Prado just like cleared and went to AAA? I don't know. I mean, he was a prospect that struggled, obviously, but I didn't. Nobody else picked him up.
Yeah, I'm not too surprised. I think they've been trying to trade him for a while, and they just haven't had a taker. He's a first base only profile. They've tried him in the outfield, didn't really work, and he strikes out like 35% of the time. So, big power, but like the strikeout issues haven't changed. They've just kind of gotten worse, and there's really nowhere to play him but first base. And so I think teams like they probably could have sold him high when he was like a top 100 prospect, but the bottoms kind of fell out on that one, unfortunately. And not too surprised he cleared waivers.
So I'm going to kind of go off script here in our line of questioning here because it makes sense and it's kind of like a pseudo similar profile, at least in James and I's eye. Because when we talked about the draft last year, one of the guys that was kind of projected to go to the White Sox possibly was Jac Caglianone.
Hmm.
And you've got that huge upside of power, first base profile, more than likely. We've heard about him possibly being like a left field option maybe, and we've heard that maybe he's thrown like a couple of bullpens possibly, but like the pitching thing's probably not on the horizon either.
Yeah.
How soon do you think that you could see Jack Caglione with the Royals? And Obviously, people are chomping at the bit to see this guy just hitting nukes all over the place. But your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I said it a kind of undrafted that I thought he could make a Wyatt Langford type ascend to the big leagues. I think the hit tool doesn't give enough credit. Like he has some of the best plate coverage I've ever seen out of a baseball player in a very long time. Like the strikeout rate, he was able to cut down. Like yeah, there's some chase there, but for me, it's like he chases and makes contact. So he's not chasing and swinging and missing. And I think that's kind of the big thing for his profile is that you got a guy who's got 121.7 max EV in college baseball. He averaged 111.7. Like the power and the ability to just kind of have a feel for the strike zone are just incredible. And I think he could easily push past AA and AAA and be in the big leagues by May, June sometime. Especially the like we kind of touched on, like this team doesn't have depth and they need that middle of the order bat. Like he could come up and just all of a sudden be that middle of the order bat. Again, I worry about the chase rate still, just because as you start facing better pitching, like you're probably going to have more swing and miss there. But I still think he's just kind of shown that he can make it to the big leagues and kind of have an impact immediately.
Yes, you obviously you talk Royals, but you host a draft show too, right?
Yeah.
So, and we do a ton of draft. We were really surprised when the White Sox took Hagen Smith.
Mm,
Just and like I think me and Ian were very fine with it, but it was just like kind of shocking just because we thought the White Sox were definitely going to take a bat. What did
yeah.
you think like in the lead up for Royals? Where like did you want Cags? Did you think it was coming? Was it kind of a surprise? Like how was that whole thing?
I was definitely surprised. I thought they were going to go some kind of prep. I thought it was going to be like Connor Griffin or Bryce Rayner. That was kind of what was getting thrown around, and I don't know if they're just using that to just kind of keep people off the trail there. But to me, like Cags was like the best bat overall. I mean, you had Bazana and Condon, but I think just overall tools and upside, like Jack Cags just to me came out as the top. I didn't think they were going to go arm, so I didn't think Burns or Hagen Smith were even like in the question. Um, and I was just really, really surprised, but excited at the same time. I was a little bit like worried about the first base profile thing. If he can stick in the corner outfield and just be like just below average or just be able to. I mean, you have MJ Melendez and Hunter Renfro out there right now, and it's not pretty.
True.
So it's just like if he can just be any bit ounce better than that, like that, it's going to be awesome.
Isn't that what they're doing? Isn't he playing right field
Yeah, I think so.
in
Yeah,
double? He's going to
yeah,
double A? Yeah.
yeah. He's going to be playing outfield.
Yeah. Yeah. So if he can play out there at all, it's really valuable because it's
Yeah,
way better than sticking him at first base, obviously. So as exciting as Cags is, like, we hear some like, oh, more teams should do what the Royals did. Like you go out and spend money on free agents. But I mean, look, like you need a 10 war shortstop. That's
yeah.
helpful, right? How exciting is it to watch Bobby Witt Jr. every day?
Man, like I sometimes I don't think Royals like take for granted that like they get to watch this guy play like one of the top 3 players in the league play every single day. And I think part of it's because he's just so humble. Like he's not a guy who's out there playing with like a ton of flair and like just going out and kind of trying to show everybody up. He just kind of goes out there, does his thing, and then kind of goes home at night. And you're just like, well, he just went like 4 for 4 with 2 bombs and stole 2 bases. It's just kind of insane to watch him on a day-to-day basis go about his job just because he loves baseball. All he wants to do is play baseball and he's so good at it. And it's just like every time he comes to the plate, you know something's going to happen. Like he's going to drive a run in, and just having him hitting in the tool hole. Now he's going to have a guy like Jonathan India in front of him who's always on base. Like you're going to see those RBI opportunities go up. It's just exciting, man. And it's like I the fact that they were able to sign him to that extension, that was probably like the happiest day as a Royals fan, just because like you knew he was going to get locked in. Yeah, there's opt outs after like 5 or 6 years or whatever, but the fact that he's going to be in a Royals uniform for like at least a long period of time is just awesome. And he wants to play in Kansas City, which is even better.
Yeah, they ponied up that cash. Like
Yeah.
that had to have been a huge deal for you guys.
Yeah, is I didn't know if it was going to happen. Like there was concerns like you're going to see Bobby here, arbitration's going to be done, and then he's going to be out the window. But the fact they bought out his RBers, locked him in, like man, that's awesome.
Yes, indeed. I saw he's got his own Victus crayon bat and Bobby Blue. It's
Yeah,
pretty slick. It's pretty
yeah.
awesome. So going to overall expectations here, what needs to happen for the Royals to win the division? And what could derail the season on the flip side?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that rotation needs to be as good as it was last year. Kind of talked about that a little bit earlier, but Reagan's Waka, Lugo, um, and like Chris Bubick really taking those next steps as a starter, like that rotation needs to be locked down. And because you knew every day you're getting about 6 innings from each guy, they're going to go out, they're going to take the ball, they're going to keep you in every single game, and that's why the Royals kind of won close games. And then I think the bullpen just needs to be more consistent. Because of those like close games, the bullpen was often kind of blowing it a here or two. They're still probably about league average, but I think if you have a healthy Harvey, you have Ursic now for a full season, you have Estevez, like you need that 7, 8, 9 to be locked down and win those closer games for you because maybe they can eclipse into the 90 category of win totals. So I think those are the big things. And then lastly, I'd just say the lineup. The lineup has to stay healthy. Like you need Vinny and you need Bobby out there every single day. You need Salvi playing like 140 games plus a year. Um, and Michael Massey again dealt with a back issue. Like you need a full season out of Michael Massey, fully healthy as well. So I think that's going to be the big thing. They have some more pieces, like we said, kind of Canna and India now are in the mix. I think Kevin Biggio is going to end up making the roster because he's had such a good spring. So like they'll have some pieces that might be slightly better than like Adam Frazier and Garrett Hampson, who were on the bench last year and just kind of weren't reliable. So I think they're gonna if they just gotta avoid injuries is gonna be the big thing, and they have to probably go find a depth piece lineup wise at the deadline if they're really gonna want to make a push for this thing.
I have a quick question here, James,
Yeah,
before you hop in here. So Seth Lugo last year was you were not expecting the performance that you got out of Seth Lugo.
no,
What is the confidence level for him repeating what he did last season?
I I'm pretty confident in it. I don't think like maybe he won't put up the same exact numbers, like, but I still think he's good for just like a 3.5 type ERA. Um, He's just like a guy who goes out there and pitches. He's got like 6 or 7 different pitches, and he just the pitch ability is insane. I know he doesn't have the most electric stuff off the charts, like fastball doesn't have good extension. He doesn't have a ton of fastball velo, but he just finds a way to get out. And so I have some confidence in him kind of repeating. I think he's gonna probably go a little bit closer to the 2023 numbers, so somewhere be around like a 3.5. He posted a 3.0 last year, so and I think he had like an xERA of like a 3.75. So I feel like that 3.5 to 3.6 area is probably going to be about what he's at. So maybe you'll get a few less wins from him, but I still think he's going to be a consistent number 2, number 3 type for this team.
So I think like over the past couple years, they've done a pretty decent job like making deals. I know it's not a super great farm system, right? But
Mhm.
like what could they feasibly go get if they need to, just as far as like ownership spending and then using pieces from the system to go get something?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit tough. I know, like the owner John Sherman said in the offseason, like they're willing to spend on like to do a salary dump if the player makes sense for the team. So like there's some flexibility there. Like they were in on Anthony Santander and some other big free agents as well. So they're willing to spend the money. If there's like a big salary dump candidate at the deadline, maybe they take on somebody who's performing, just because the team wants to get out from underneath them and it costs them less prospect capital. Again, like you said, the farm system's not great. You kind of have the top three in Cags, Mitchell, Jensen. Like Cags isn't going anywhere. It doesn't seem like they're too adamant on parting with Blake Mitchell either. So like Carter Jensen's probably your best trade piece. He's made his way into a couple of top 100 prospects lists now. Um, and I have to imagine one of the catchers is going to be traded. Like you have Ramon Ramirez, Carter Jensen, and Blake Mitchell, and so it seems like they're flexible to move Mitchell if like they'll get a big piece back, right? But it's hard to trade catching prospects, but it could work out in their favor if they try to want to move one of those. But I think you're going to see one of the catchers move if they need a big piece at the deadline.
Did Mitchell break his hamate or something
Yes,
along
yeah.
those
So he's
lines?
out for a bit to start the
Oh, so
season.
you guys haven't seen him. He hasn't come back yet
I
at all.
don't think so. No.
Okay.
So just your thoughts on the organization, like in general. I know they so similar to kind of what we're dealing with Chris Getz in Chicago, right? Like we
Yeah.
we weren't huge fans of them going internal and not interviewing anybody else. But Getz has really acted like an outside hire where he's just brought a bunch of dudes in from good organizations. JJ seems like did the same thing in Kansas City. Just your thoughts with all of the moves, Bridges, and everybody else that they brought in.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote an article about this kind of last year about how like JJ Piccolo was charting his own course, right? I think forever, as soon as he was hired, everybody was like, "Oh, he's just going to be Dayton Moore 2.0." He was brought up through the system with Dayton Moore, like he's going to be Dayton Moore, and I think he showcased that he isn't. I think one, like you watch him in interviews, he's transparent in every interview that he does. Like last off season, he's like, we want two starting pitchers, we want a corner bat, and we want like a utility type player. They went out and got all of those pieces. Like he just goes out in interviews is like, I'm gonna be transparent with the fans about like what this team needs, and it just goes out and kind of does it. I think the other advantage he has is he has uh, an owner who's willing to spend more. Like Dayton Moore really spent maybe like 6 months with the new owner, and the Glass era, like they just weren't willing to spend money. So JJ's got a little bit of flexibility there. But I also, like you mentioned, the guys that he's brought into the system, like bringing in Brian Bridges. Brian Bridges was huge to bring in as the scouting director, and you could see the difference in the draft just last year as they kind of got Cags. They went after a bunch of arms who had plus type stuff, but maybe not the best numbers, which is not a way they would go before in the draft. Like they were always kind of looking at numbers, and now they're actually looking at guys and stuff that they can develop. So I think you've seen like a complete difference in the way that they develop players too, and you're starting to see the results and the pitching and the arms in the minor leagues, which is good. And then they brought in Johnny I don't know how to say his last name, DePuglia from the
Yeah.
Washington Nationals, who's the international scouting director. Or he was the Nationals international scouting director. He's a special assistant now with the Royals, but they've done a lot better in terms of international signs. They're being a little bit more active in that space and trying to bring in some good guys in that space. So I just think JJ's willingness to be transactional, he's increased his reliance on data and analytics. Like it's not the only thing they use, but he's actually incorporating it. And that was like the biggest flaw for Dayton Moore. And I think his openness and transparencies are just kind of three big ways that he's really charted his own course and really taken the front office to the next level.
So obviously the draft, the White Sox are picking
Yep.
10th. You guys weekly at Just Baseball now?
For the
The
podcast.
draft show? Yeah.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
weekly.
Yeah. So I mean like this, the draft class is, like okay. It's not as top
Yeah.
heavy as like the last one. I think the Sox are picking in a good spot at 10 because I
Yeah.
think they're going to get somebody good. What do you think just about the top of this draft? I mean, obviously Laviolette's had his struggles, but there's some college like shortstops and infielders that have really kind of popped in here. Just your overall thoughts on this draft class at this stage.
Yeah, I was talking. It's kind of boring draft class compared to most drafts. You don't even have like a top five, like a consensus top five guys, like you did last year. And like, of course, the draft before last year was even stronger because you had Skeens, Cruz, Wyatt Langford, all that fun stuff. But you just don't have a consensus like number one overall guy. Right now, it's Jamie Arnold for us. We have our draft board update, the top 200 going out tomorrow, and Arnold's now eclipsed number one for us. And then Avar Arquette, the shortstop out of Oregon State's at number two. But there's so much fluidity to this draft class. Like a strong performance one weekend can really have a guy rise up. And I think for a team like the White Sox who are picking 10th, or as I've been looking at this for the Royals who are picking 23rd, like it's almost a benefit to be drafting later in the class because I don't think any teams are really going to know how their teams are drafting with this class just because there's just so much fluidity with it. And it just feels like to me that it's going to be hard to pinpoint. Like you're like, okay, yeah, these are the five guys that are going 1 through 5 for sure. I mean, we had Eli Willits as the number one prep prospect. Now we have like Billy Carlson, Kason Cunningham, and Gavin Feen, who are all above Eli Willits, and their springs are going to continue, and they're either going to have really strong performances or they're not. And like Ethan Holiday's dropped down to, I believe, 10 on our list. Jace Laviolette's dropped down to 16. Like there's just going to be so much up and down with this list. In terms of guys that the White Sox might be interested in, I guess for my question for you guys is like, are what's their usual trend? Is it like prep guys, college guys,
Well,
arms?
so it was always college guys, but
Yeah.
their scouting director loves high school players,
Mm,
but I really feel like it's college bat to match up with like their young core that they have. Like I think they want to get Teal and Caro and Colson Montgomery to the big leagues with some of this pitching. So if I wouldn't be surprised. Look, I'll never be surprised if they take a high upside like high school kid,
Yeah.
especially like because the scouting director loves high school guys. He loves Midwest players. This feels like college hitter to me.
Yeah, I think the best guys are going to be around during that time. Merrick Houston, shortstop out of Wake Forest. He's up to 12 on our board. Um, he has just become one of the most improved bats in the entire class. The big worry and concern about him was some of the power and being able to tap into his power. He's already up to 9 home runs, which is a career high for him this year. And it's just like he's a spark plug at the top of the lineup. He makes things happen. He makes a ton of contact. And he plays probably the best defensive shortstop in college baseball. So like I think he's a guy that could potentially fall to 10, just depending on how things kind of shake out at the top. Dean Curley, the shortstop out of Tennessee, is another guy who I think is a consensus top 15 pick, who could fall to that 10 spot. Then you have the best mid-major arm in the class in Tyler Bremner. If they're going to go pitcher, like that could be another route. He's got like a 80 grade changeup basically, and at USA this summer was like sitting 98 in short stints. So Jace Laviolette could probably fall to 10. Like that's big power. He's been struggling all year long this year. The whole entire Texas A&M lineup just can't buy a hit. And Jace is part of that. There's a lot of swing and miss in that profile. Like I would be more concerned with him than like a Cags because like he's chase with everything, like swing and miss. But he's got the same type of power as Cags. So if you're looking for a corner
Yeah.
outfield bat to kind of bank on and hope that your player development could kind of fix some of those issues with the hit tool, like that's a really good bat to bank on. Yeah, those are probably like Ike Irish. So if you're gonna go catcher, like Ike Irish, Luke Stevenson, but you probably aren't doing that with Kyle Teal and Edgar Caro there. So you're probably gonna just wipe those guys off the board.
You think Houston's the only one of the college guys that's definitely a shortstop of those like 3 or 4?
Yeah, I mean, I think Curly has a chance to stick up there. He's got really soft hands. He's very mobile. He's got really good instincts for the position. Um, he's got the arm strength really to kind of settle in there as well. Has some accuracy issues, but he's got the tools to handle shortstop long term. And I think Dean Curley is a guy that could really stick there at that position.
Any college ones, Ian? Any draft stuff yet?
Nah, I mean, not really.
We're not totally dug in.
Yeah,
Jared, where do you guys have Liam Doyle?
Liam Doyle is at 24.
Okay.
So a lot of it's just because like there's some concerns with some of the fastball. Like the fastball metrics are great, but just the velocity, um, and those kind of things. I think the secondaries. There's some concerns with the secondaries on him.
Yeah, he looks very like relievery, but
Yeah,
Keith Law has him number 1 on his board.
that's what I think.
I
That's
was
way
like,
too
it's
high.
crazy. Yeah, I
Tyler's
mean
got
he
concerns about him as a reliever too.
yeah, I mean I could see it like somebody popping him because college starters just,
Yeah,
go up there, but yeah, that seems a little. And the White Sox are notorious for, you know, funky high impact lefties. I think it's a hitter this time, and then I'll be shocked on draft night when they take another pitcher. So
yeah. I mean, that's how I was with Cags. I was like, oh, it's for sure an outfield bat, like college polished outfield bat. And then they're like, hey, let's take the first baseman.
do you think it would have been Braden Montgomery if he didn't get hurt, or was it
That's
Cags?
that's who I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. That seemed like the perfect fit for the Royals, like the team that needs a corner outfield bat who could be a quick riser through the minors. Like I thought Braden for sure was going to be a guy on their list.
Yeah, we heard a ton of Braden Montgomery. We heard Cags. We know the scouting director really liked Connor Griffin.
Mm.
And then we had kind of got word like before the draft, like, hey, we heard they're like taking Hagen, and we had a live show, and I didn't believe it, and then it happened, and we were just like, I don't know, we had to like get through our show like stunned kind of because I was like, holy cow.
It's kind of crazy because I thought I didn't think Chase Burns was going to go 3. Like I know he's an electric factory, but I just usually you don't see teams with arms like go with top
That high.
5.
Yeah,
But
yeah, the college bats always rise, man,
yeah.
as we're seeing this year.
Yep.
Yeah, as far as the draft goes, I don't know what to believe yet. I guess is where I'm at. I don't have. I mean, like you said, there's no consensus
No.
guy group of guys up at the top, and it's as far as the White Sox go, I would love to see them take like the one of the top electric prep bats, but it's so hard, to make a decision on which one of the ones is the guy that you want. I mean, I've said, since the beginning of this season, I was like, well, if Ethan Holiday's just sitting there, I would love to grab him, but then you see other guys are having better performances. I don't know. It's just this one's a tough one.
Ethan Holiday is a weird one too. It's like he gets a lot of the hype, I think, because of his brother and Jackson. Like he was like everybody's consensus number one prep guy. I mean, the power's there, man. Like the exit velos are insane for a kid his age, but
Yeah.
the hit tool concerns, like the things he was showing in Team USA this summer, like there were some serious swing and miss issues. Really, really like patient, not in a good way at the plate, like just doesn't make good. That's the same thing Xavier Nyans went through. It's like
Hmm.
both were just like very patient and not aggressive enough at the plate. Like, yeah, you're working the walks, but like they were missing their pitches that they could just hit and drive. And so you kind of want them to get a little bit more aggressive. And maybe that comes with like experience, right? As they're just high school kids. So, but yeah, I think those two guys, like Nyans and Holiday, were like potential consensus, like 1-1 type guys. And then the summers weren't great for them. And so they're trying to make some refinements to their approach and have a strong spring to kind of to bolster their draft stock again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
think
seems
I
like
think Billy Carlson's the best prep guy in the class. I mean,
Yeah,
that
we got him at
school's
3.
yeah, that's and yeah, like I get that. And then the other storyline with that, Ian, is like Seth Hernandez like is awesome, but
Yeah.
he's a prep righty. So,
Mhm.
but I think in this class, like you just got to do it. Like it's, he's gonna, I don't think he'll be there for the Sox. I think he's gone. But I just, I don't really buy the prep righty falls down the board thing this year because he's so good.
Yeah. Seth Hernandez was, like, bumping 100s in this summer, so
well, I mean, it's like you look at Sloan. Sloan's doing pretty well as well in
yeah.
spring training. So I mean, it's like at this point, prep arms are way more developed than they were at one point. So I mean, with the advancement in TrackMan and all that kind of data at all these places, I mean, it makes sense. One thing I have heard though from a couple of coaches is that a bunch of them feel like these kids are getting kind of programmed to have a perfect swing, and they're really working on getting these guys swings to be great, but they're not
Mhm.
actually teaching them how to hit, and that's probably why it's taking an extra bit of time for some of these kids to develop on the hit tool. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely see that.
all right, Jared. On the way out here, is there anything that you would like to promo here?
Yeah, I mean, we'll have the like we mentioned, the top 200 board coming out. I don't know what day this podcast drops, but it'll be coming out tomorrow, Monday morning on March 24th. So, if you're listening to this after that, the top 200 board is on the Just Baseball website. We're gonna have draft stock risers, fallers going out weekly from JD Cameron on our team, just so everybody can kind of stay on top of like who the top performers are and those kind of things. And yeah, we have draft interviews with a ton of draft prospects going out. Corbin Dickerson was on the show last week from Indiana. We got ones with Cam Canarella and a bunch of other guys. So go to the On the Clock YouTube. You can catch those interviews there as well.
All right, awesome. All right, well, Jared, we appreciate you coming on. Thanks for giving us your knowledge on the Royals and on the college drafts and prep draft stuff as well. Awesome, awesome, awesome information. Um, and hope to catch up with you soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, thanks.